Oh, come on, Honey Rose. Don't look so down just because you lost that challenge. It's okay. You're right, Honey Rose. The best way to get over a defeat like that, which really wasn't so much a defeat, you did really, really well with your boat challenge. But the best way maybe is just to get into a good book. I agree. Let's find out about a nice story, something we can kind of lose ourselves in, something that we can also still use inference, because that's what we've been talking about. All right, thanks, Honey Rose. Let's go check it out. So you saw Honey Rose getting into a good book, which is probably a good idea after her disappointment from yesterday. And actually, she did really well with her boat challenge. She was able to float way more pennies with her new design. So she has nothing to be pouty about, but she wanted to get into a good story, which I think is a smart idea. And it goes along with our inference page as well. So when you look at our inference page, we put these notes in, and they mostly went along with science. We were talking about reading and science, and that's why we use this word senses when we were talking about a definition for inference. And when we infer something, remember that's part of that word inference, when we infer something or use inference, we're trying to use some background knowledge and add to that what we read or see, or in the case of science, what we observe, to try to make a good guess as to what's happening, trying to understand what's going on. Because it doesn't tell us exactly, so we have to use this thing called inference. And all good readers do this. You do it all the time. You use clues that the author gives you to try to figure things out, because the author's not exactly going to always tell you what's happening. You have to use inference to try to understand what's happening. So we're going to use our background knowledge, what we know, and we're going to add to it what we read and see. Not just read, but also see, because there's illustrations that are a lot of times in our reading. So what we read and see in the text, those two things together will give us our inference, our understanding of what it is we are reading, especially when the author doesn't always tell us everything there is to know. All right, let's look into our story a little bit. Now, this story that we're going to be looking at was actually a Caldecott Honor Book in the year that it was made. And for those that don't know about the Caldecott Honor Books or the Newbery Books, they're awards that are handed out every year for the best stories of the year or the best books of the year. And these Caldecott ones are for the people's illustrations, the drawings. So it's a perfect book for us to use as we infer from drawings as well as text. So the title of this story is The Gardener. The Gardener is a story that I think uses some inference quite well. People have to infer from not only the text, but also the drawings. The pictures, the drawings, are by David Small. And so he's the one that was the recipient of the Caldecott Award for the year that this book was published. And so take a look as I'm scanning this page here, and try to use some clues and your background knowledge and make some inferences. Try to infer a little bit from the pictures. Here's what I want you to think about or infer. I want you to think about who some of these characters might be, what might be going on in this story, what's happening, do you think? And if you could, also try to infer what time frame are we looking at? What year might this be from? The story was written about a time in our country's history. And I'm wondering if you can pick it out by looking at some of the details in these illustrations and make an inference about it. All right, I think you can pause and maybe share some of those ideas if your teacher wants to at this point, and then we'll go on in our story. Now that you've had a chance to infer from the title page, here's the next page in our story. Interesting. We have some more things from our illustrator, David Small. He added in some more things in this inside picture. Now they're inside that house. And again, who are these characters, do you think? And what could they be doing? And what time is this story taking place in our history? Like, what years would you think? Like, how long ago, based on some of the things you see in the illustrations? So maybe you want to pause one more time and talk about this before we start in on our first page. So we're about to get some information now as we start into the story. This story actually has a professional type reader person, and so I will have that going as I flip through these pages along with it. And as you follow along with this, maybe some of your inferring was correct. Maybe you had some ideas that now you'll find out came true or were accurate. So let's follow along with this.
The Gardener by Sarah Stewart, illustrated by David Small. August 27th, 1935. Dear Uncle Jim, Grandma told us after supper that you want me to come to the city and live with you until things get better. Did she tell you that Papa has been out of work for a long time and no one asks Mama to make dresses anymore? We all cried, even Papa. But then Mama made us laugh with her stories about you were chasing her up trees when you were both little. Did you really do that? I'm small but strong, and I'll help you all I can. However, Grandma said to finish my schoolwork before doing anything else. Your niece, Lydia Grace Finch. September 3rd, 1935. Dear Uncle Jim, I'm mailing this from the train station. I forgot to tell you in the last letter 3 important things that I'm too shy to say to your face. Number 1, I know a lot about gardening, but nothing about baking. Number 2, I'm anxious to learn to bake, but is there any place to plant seeds? Number 3, I like to be called Lydia Grace, just like Grandma. Your niece, Lydia Grace Finch. On the train, September 4th, 1935. Dear Mama, I feel so pretty in your dress that you made over for me. I hope you don't miss it too much. Dear Papa, I haven't forgotten what you said about recognizing Uncle Jim. Just look for Mama's face with a big nose and a mustache. I promise not to tell him. Does he have a sense of humor? And dearest Grandma, thank you for the seeds. The train is rocking me to sleep, and every time I doze off, I dream of gardens. Love to all, Lydia Grace. September 5th, 1935. Dear Mama, Papa, and Grandma, I'm so excited. There are window boxes here. They look as if they've been waiting for me, so now we'll both wait for spring. And Grandma, the sun shines down on the corner where I'll live and work. Love to all, Lydia Grace. P.S. Uncle Jim doesn't smile.
So let's pause there for a second as we see brave Lydia Grace making her way through the train station and arriving to where Uncle Jim lives. It appears that Uncle Jim, yep, he's still not smiling, but he must own this bakery. And sure enough, right in front of this bakery is a window box that Lydia Grace says she's so excited about. So already you're probably starting to make some inferences as we continue on in the story and find out more about Uncle Jim and Lydia and the bakery where they were.
September 25th, 1935. Dear Mama, Papa, and Grandma, I adore the seed catalogs you sent for Christmas. And Grandma, thank you for all the bulbs. I hope you received my drawings. I wrote a long poem for Uncle Jim. He didn't smile, but I think he liked it. He read it aloud, then put it in his shirt pocket and patted it. Love to all, Lydia Grace. February 12th, 1936. Dearest Grandma, thank you again for those bulbs you sent at Christmas. You should see them now. I really like Ed and Emma Beach. Uncle Jem's friends who work here. When I first arrived, Emma told me she'd show me how to knead bread if I would teach her the Latin names of all the flowers I know. Now, just half a year later, I'm kneading bread and she's speaking Latin. More good news. We have a store cat named Otis, who at this very moment is sleeping at the foot of my bed. Love to all, Lydia Grace. P.S. Uncle Jim isn't smiling yet, but I'm hoping for a smile soon. March 5th, 1936. Dear Mama, Papa, and Grandma, I've discovered a secret place. You can't imagine how wonderful it is. No one else knows about it but Otis. I have great plans. Thank you for all the letters. I'll try to write more, but I'm really busy planting all your seeds in cracked teacups and bent cake pans. And Grandma, you should smell the good dirt I'm bringing home from the vacant lot down the street. Love to all, Lydia Grace.
I'm sure you've been making inferences this whole time, like the cat. Now we know this cat is Otis. We also saw that the letters are dated at interesting times of the year. December 25th. December 25th is Christmas Day. So here we have all kinds of things related to Christmas. And here's Uncle Jim reading that poem, still not smiling, but reading that poem that Lydia Grace was so nice to write him. Look at how positive and great energy that she has there up against that wall, as if everything is just fine and dandy. Here's another one, February 12th. I wonder what date that's close to. February 12th is coming up not too long from now, actually. And it goes along with, you see here, Uncle Jim is a baker, and he's making what looks to be a cake, and they're making some pastries and some dough, it looks like, and some muffins. Here's Otis again. Here's Ed and Emma Beach. Ed and Emma, they work at the bakery, sounds like. So we're making all these inferences. We continue every page to come up with some more things that we can infer, that we can guess at based on what we know and what we're looking at with illustrations and what we're reading. Notice that she also is looking for a secret place, and she's staring up at these staircases, which leads her to the top of the building, which doesn't look to be that great. But this top of the building is her secret place. There you see her walking now. Well, it looks like Otis is going with her. And she's now getting onto the roof of this building, which is covered with all kinds of junk and stuff that doesn't look to be so great and wonderful. But she's got an idea of something in mind, something to do with this secret place. Well, we're going to pause here and continue our story tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you're making a whole lot of inferences, using your background knowledge and what you're seeing and reading to guess what's happening and help you understand what's happening. All right. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.